Hello, everyone. So let's just close our eyes. Let's just take a moment, drop into our breath, just checking in how you're feeling, how you feel in the space where you're at, connecting to me and our little group, checking in how you feel in my presence. And let's receive 3 breaths. Inhale and out. And 2 more times. Inhale and out. One last time. Inhale and let it go. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is the part 2 of a series of webinars on the art of facilitating breathwork. Send me a message if you haven't watched the first one, where I was talking about facilitating in general and the art of holding a container. And I'm not going to repeat what I said in that first webinar. So I'll happily send you the recording if you haven't had it already. Otherwise, message me on WhatsApp or on social media, and then I'll happily send you the recording. You can also find it on my YouTube. Okay, so now we're gonna go about the art of facilitating breathwork specifically. So I want to really dive deep into this modality and how to guide people in a safe way to transform. So I'll talk for a bit, and then I'll stop, and then if you have questions, I'll take questions, and we can flow with that. I'll try to share things that you haven't heard already. So it's not the usual advice, and I'm trying to stay out of the generic. I've been facilitating now for 9 years, about 7,000 people. I've been training about 500 trainers, so I've facilitated many sessions. I don't like the expression. I'm tempted to say it all the time, but I don't like the expression "hold space" because I do feel that the space doesn't. It's very arrogant to think that I'm holding the space. The space doesn't need anyone to hold it. So basically, being present for people, and I prefer the expression being compassionate witness. And maybe I can start with that. It's the idea of dropping expectations. I think it's very tempting as a facilitator to be attached to outcome. And when you have expectations in life in general, you prepare yourself for disappointment. So I would say it's really important to remain just open and present and welcome what is without having expectation to change. The truth is, you have no idea what's happening for people. And I've seen many sessions where people haven't moved at all, haven't expressed anything, no movement in the body, which is very frustrating for a facilitator who's trying to get things moving in the body. And we talk about movement and sound, and very often people will come to me after, say, Alex, that was the most transformational hour of my life. So don't make the assumption because nothing's going on that inside is the same. You never know. So don't make any assumptions. And also, every human is different, and everyone is coming with a different story and a different intention. So it's very important to remain neutral and to be in a state of mind when you're going to respond rather than initiate. We're not here to initiate anything. We're just here to be present and respond to what is. The more you're going to be in tune with yourself and connected to yourself, the more you'll be able to attune to others. So this idea of being grounded, centered, and there to be just welcoming and really feeling what's happening with each person is absolutely essential. That's why I put so much importance of what's happening before and after a session. In my sessions, actually, I tend to say that breath work is just one of the elements. It's not the hero of the journey. Very often, it's already a success before the breath. If we do a good job prior to the breath, are people relaxed? Do they feel safe? Do they trust? Are they ready to open up? Do they let go of all their protections? Because the truth is, people come very guarded. It's just the reality of the world we live in. People don't trust easily. They have been manipulated. They have lost their confidence and their trust in others, and they just don't easily open up. And if you can create an environment where they can relax, when their nervous system can relax and they feel, you know what, I actually feel this is a place where I can be authentically myself, where I can welcome my emotions without trying to suppress them, then you're going to have most likely an incredible session. So I always say, for me, the win is what's happening before. So I talk at length in my trainings on all the things we do around dancing, doing authentic relating games where we connect with each other, where we drop into, hey, okay, all right, what is the mask that I'm wearing? Oh, I want to be seen, I want to be validated, or I'm in my head. So many people spend most of their time in their head, not in their bodies. You just observe if people are not really fully present in the space, but they are lost in their thoughts. Maybe they don't make eye contact with you so easily. Just appreciate who is disassociating and who's not disassociating. So all these little things are so essential so that when people start the breath, then all of a sudden they are, just ready, basically just ready. So here we go with some of the key secrets that I have with breathing cold that I think make me stand out from others. I would say probably the most important is I invite people to do things differently. One of the key principles is if we always do the same thing, we get the same results. And people usually have their way, especially if they come to me and they have done a lot of breath work before, they know how to breathe and they know how they like it. And they push themselves or they fully relax. Whatever is their way of usually breathing, my invitation at the beginning is to tell them, reflect on what you tend to do in your comfort zone and do the opposite. I call it doing 180. What's 180 degree look like today? And every day might be different and every intention might be different, but just giving them the insight that what if we do things differently? And 100% of the time, if you do things differently, you get a different outcome. And it's really interesting to observe people that are in their comfort zone by, constantly pushing themselves, overachievers, wanting to do the right thing, following the instructions, and inviting them to do exactly the opposite, to surrender, to drop, and to just listen to what their intelligence of the body is telling them. And that I found a really great way to short circuit the brain, which is kind of wanting you to remain safe. Yeah, so the brain is not your friend in a breath session. The brain is here to keep you safe, not to get you out of your comfort zone. So people are very likely to just go for their habitual self. And when they are not doing that, then they're going to get a lot of signals from their brains. That's not a good idea. Don't do that. So they're going to have thoughts, judgment. They might have an opinion about the music, about something I said, about someone else in the space. All those chatting box coming in the mind to find an excuse to actually not do the work. So I actually speak to that. And I get people to reflect as, what is going on right now? And observe your thoughts and observe your triggers, because that's also an easy way to not be present. Says, let me focus on my opinion about Alex's t-shirt or his beard or what he said before or whatever it is that is coming out. But actually, why do you care? It's just a distraction from what's really going on that you don't want to face. So bringing people to awareness to what are your ways to avoid being with yourself, and very much when it comes to the breath. And very often there are tons of strategies that people are very good at to not be fully present with themselves. So just having a space to just address that and bring that to awareness that, hey, for an hour and a half, depending on the length of the session, you're going to be with yourself. And the invitation is that you don't go anywhere else. Be with your body, spend a bit of time, one of the key sentence in breathing cold is hello, my love. It's the idea of having a reconnection with your body and a loving one, the same way you would have with a lover or a partner or a child. Said, hello, my love. I'm here for you. I'm going to give you my undivided attention for the next hour. Nothing else is going to matter. I'm just going to be there. It's just you and me. Yeah. So having this great intention of pure presence. And we know that what the feminine craves is presence, right? That's what a woman wants. Let's say in a cliche, a woman wants from a man. Well, this is a time for your inner feminine to call your inner masculine, and your inner masculine to come and says, hello, my love. I'm here for you. I'm going to be there. I'm not going to go anywhere. Let's tell me what's going on. And if you do that to yourself, all of a sudden your inner feminine get to relax and says, oh, finally someone is listening, someone is paying attention. Now I can relax, now I can feel safe. I have a lot to say. And I'm glad that you're finally asking me. Yeah, so often what you're craving to get from the outside, no matter your gender, because a man has an inner feminine that needs to be heard, and it can be heard by a external masculine. That's why we like to be connected to our male friends, or it needs to be heard by, if you're a heterosexual, by the masculine in your female partner. So it has nothing to do with gender, but more the idea of like, there is a part of me that needs to be heard and seen. And that's the part that just wants one thing, it's to surrender. And you've heard it over and over. Transformation happens when we surrender. So for that, my inner masculine needs to give permission to my inner feminine to release, to let go, to fully be welcome without interruption. And if you're able to facilitate that kind of communication and that kind of intention prior to the session, you're likely to have fireworks, whatever fireworks look for them in your session. So it's very much the idea of like, as we're talking masculine and feminine, let's say the foreplay is the most important in the sexual encounter. If the foreplay is well done, then you will have a beautiful intercourse. Well, it's no different. You need to have the very nice condition for the person to fully relax, to be present, to feel safe, to feel open, not guarded. And from that place, okay. I tend to facilitate in a very balanced masculine feminine way. And I think that's another key essential part of my facilitation is to be well balanced in between my masculine and my feminine. So let's dive into that a little bit. So one of the things that I find over the years is that people are very concerned about how they are going to be perceived by the outside world. Yeah, they are very conscious of how do I look, how do I sound, and the judgment of others. It's just the way we've been conditioned that, you are paying attention the way you dress, the way you speak, and it's really hard to let go of that. So what I find in group sessions is that people hold back. They feel, you know what, if I fully express myself, I'm just going to be too much. And I'm going to disturb others. I'm just going to take too much space. Or, something to that nature, or any variation around that. So I always stress the fact that managing the group is my responsibility, not their responsibility. Like, it's not for you to take care of others. It's not for you to have thinking, oh, I could not scream, I could not make sounds. I need to be a good girl. I need to be a good boy. So I really reassure them, telling them, you know what? Today is the day where you get out of the way. Today is the day when you let go of control. And if you want to scream, you scream. If you want to have an orgasm and sexual energy is coming, have an orgasm. If you want to laugh, laugh. You have no idea. Actually, people repress laughters more than cries. They feel like it's inappropriate. People are supposed to cry in breathwork, and I feel like laughing. That's not okay. Well, people can have amazing release through laughing. And it can usually trigger others. You know how those emotions get transmitted. And all of a sudden, we can have an incredible field of release through a beautiful laughter. It doesn't have to be always cathartic or with a lot of cries. So I really encourage people to trust that it's my job to bring people back to the breath when I feel that they are getting over dramatic. And as a facilitator, I am taking care of the container. Very often, I find that someone who is having an expression of an emotion is really inspiring for others. It's unlocking others. It's giving permission to others to do the same. Yeah. And there is a point where it's counterproductive, where people are stuck into their sounds, stuck into their drama, and it's not even helping them anymore. So in that moment, I make an assessment, and that's why it's so important for me to be grounded in my body and connected to my felt sense, and to know what it is needed in the moment. Because I will come and I will say, hey, come back to your breath. Come back. No more sounds. Come back to the breath. Come back to the breath. And I encourage people to change the way they breathe and maybe breathe deeper and calm down their nervous system. And they usually can go deeper then. So it has absolutely nothing to do with restricting them. It's giving them permission to actually go deeper. What's underneath? I find that very often people, when they have a release, they feel good and they don't want to go deeper. They had what they came for. But if I don't let them fully express, then there is a part of them that is a little bit frustrated. And that part is very interesting because then we get to go deeper. Let's say you're having a release because you're angry at your partner and you feel good because finally you can express what you haven't been able to say to your partner. You reconnect to your breath. And then all of a sudden you realize, my ex-partner was the same. Oh, interesting. And before you know it, you're connected to your mother and your father. You realize it's these very old, suppressed and repressed emotions that are coming to the surface. And you get to go there. That's why sometimes inviting people to switch from mouth breathing to nose breathing can be really, really profound. Yeah, there is not really one way to breathe in breath work. There is no one size fits all. And I'm against the modalities that tell you you breathe through the mouth, you breathe through the nose, in through the nose, out through the mouth. No, it's not like we are always the same. Some days I need a type of breathing, another day I need a type of breathing. Maybe at the beginning of my session, I'm going for something. So I really very much give permission for people to be playful and experimental with their breath. As much as I'm guiding them in every round, then I come individually and I just try to shift people. Okay, so that's some of the principles. I found that there are some fundamentals that are also really important. For me, movement and sound are ingredients that are fundamental in the release in breathwork. So why is that? Because we have something called fascia. Fascia is connective tissues that are covering all the muscles, all the organs, and they are pretty much ignored by the medical world, that basically they just remove it and they just get in the way of the muscles or the organs, and doctors don't spending a lot of time studying fascia. The thing with fascia is are very much connecting the whole body. So that's why sometimes people, they have an injury in the shoulder, and then before they know it, they have pain in the lower back, because everything is connected. And there's tons of content you can watch on YouTube on fascia and how they are impacting. And very often what people take as muscular tension is actually tension in the fascia net. That's where emotions are stored. And once you understand that, you realize the importance of gliding the fascia, of creating some fluidity and flexibility and movement in the fascia. Hence the importance of movement in life in general, the length correlation between movement and longevity, and all this is now pretty well studied. But in what concerns us, it's very much in the fascia that we get to access what has been suppressed and repressed. So that's why I start my sessions with some movement, a lot. Conscious movement is amazing, and it's a very great complement to breath work. I also encourage movement just before the breath, and I encourage movement during the breath. That's why it's a little bit tricky to decide over the best position for breath work, because sometimes sitting, we have a better range of movement than laying down. Yeah, maybe sometimes in cat and cow, we get to access something that we wouldn't be able to access if we were laying down on our back. On top of that, when we're laying on our back, we are all blocking the biggest part of our lungs, which is in our back, actually, not in the front. So this is to really, probably what I tell people is, give yourself permission and get out of the way. So at one point, your body will tell you what it needs. Your job is to get out of the way and to let the body express itself. And it's really, really hard because people have been conditioned to be still, don't move too much, the things that when you're 3, 4 year old and you're a good French kid, you're told to do and to behave properly in a restaurant. And people are always impressed with how well behaved the French kids are. Well, yes, and we are teaching them very young how to suppress their authentic self. So maybe there is something maybe more questionable about our very wonderful French way of raising children. So giving permission for people to move. I tend to support that movement and sometimes initiate it. And that's the part where you really need to be connected to yourself very deeply. Like I'm 50% connected to myself, 50% connected to the people around. Like the connection to myself is almost, it's as important as me sensing what's happening with others because my body is responding to their bodies. We are animals and we're sensing what's going on. And when I'm fully connected to myself, I just know intuitively who I should live in peace, who is having a process and I shouldn't intervene, and who I should actually push. And again, this is something that is really hard because it's not like there is a rule. And very often when you hear breathwork facilitators, they will have an opinion. You should let people or you should push people. Actually, I don't agree with both options. I do believe that some people need a blanket, some people, they need to be waken up. And that's for you to sense. And that's maybe a conversation that you have before, maybe it's an observation. And during the first part of the workshop, I'm observing, I'm reading, I'm smelling, I'm feeling, and I already know what the person needs. I have my diagnostic before the breath work. I say, okay, you need this, you need that, you need this, you need that, da, 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 da. I even write it down in my notebook. Yeah. So when comes the breath, I know where I'm going to go. I can observe where the energy is stuck. What's happening with the shape of the mouth? What's happening with the line of the shoulders? Is the heart closed and protected? Do I feel that the people are not comfortable sitting? Are there tension in the pelvic floor? Like I'm literally, is the breath moving? Is the upper chest liberated or constricted? Are they more inhaling or exhaling? Are they switching to the mouth too often? What is the level of attention? So really, really all the little details are being registered so that I have an intuition what to do with them. And then I come and then I will be initiating. So maybe I will support some movement. So if someone is, let's say, doing something like this, maybe I will grab the wrists and I will encourage maybe bigger range of movement. Very often I interrupt movement because people move and breathe in a certain pattern, and I will break it and I will send them in another way. Again, it's a way of interrupting what's happening in the brain and short circuit and make another offering. So it's a fine dance between allowing, encouraging, expanding, and correcting if I find that the people are not going anywhere. And even if they are not moving at all, what I can do is just a shake. Really, again, just shaking the fascia and bringing a shake in the hips, shake in the shoulders, shake in the jaw, shake in the neck, shake in the legs. That's a simple sway of the body can be really nice to just get people back. The principle behind is, can you be in your body? Can you be in connection with your love for an hour and a half? Can you not be in your mind? Thank you. Your mind is taking enough of the space. Thank you very much. Let's leave the mind on the side and be in the body for an hour and a half. That's the intention. That's why we breathe. That's why we move. And that's why we make sounds. I really encourage people to make sounds. I tell them, especially those who are the quiet ones, come on, fake it. Get it out. Like make the sounds, even if it doesn't come naturally because you've been conditioned to suppress it. It's okay. Just welcome the sounds. Yeah. And if you feel you're being triggered by someone making a lot of sound, great. Join them. Yeah. Lean into the trigger and go along with it. So the more I do that, the more people give themselves permission. We've been suppressing our voices so much, and there is so much to say about liberation of the body through liberation of the voice. What do you do when you have a sexual orgasm? Ah, yeah, there is a sound that comes with it. So there is clear correlation between a release and the sounds. So welcoming sounds can get you to trigger something else. Maybe through making sounds, I'm gonna start to feel aroused. And if I feel aroused, maybe I'm gonna associate sexual energy with shame, with guilt, with grief of a past relationship, with anger, with fear, all these things that are being really repressed in the body. So sexual energy, if it comes, is a really powerful one. And one of my inspiration is Wilhelm Reich, and he says he's a student of Freud in the 60s, and he says that a healthy body is a full orgasmic body. So this idea of being able to reconnect to our this beautiful fuel of life, which is our beautiful sexual energy, is wonderful. It's something that is completely taboo and suppressed in our culture because of the misuse and abuse of the sexual energy. But if you are able to reconnect with it, you're coming from that. That's the source. That's the fuel. And it needs to be harvested and connected. And in the context of a breathwork session, it's absolutely incredible. People get really access those, I call them proper states of consciousness instead of altered state. I think we are living in an altered state of consciousness, and we get to access a proper state of consciousness through those modalities. So that's very much some of the key principles: welcoming sounds, movement, releasing the fascia. What else do I have for you there? So those are pretty much some of the key principles. Now, let's continue. For me, the most important is what's happening before the breath work, because that's what's going to get people to do their thing. I can probably get out of the way during the whole breath work if I do a good job before, and people will have an amazing experience. So you can also forget everything I said. If you've created safety, you don't have to touch people. You don't even have to say anything. If you select the right tracks, you just get out of the way and let people have an hour and a half with themselves. The whole purpose of our work is to create space. You can create space with touch, with voice, with movement, but you can also create space with the music that you choose and get people to finally have space. Yeah. So if we create this space constantly, then all of a sudden magic can happen. Now, the second most important part before you have the prior to the breathwork is number one. And then the second one is what's happening after breathwork. And I find that that's what makes Breathing Cold stand out from everyone else. I tell my students that they should spend 30% or 40% of the session on what's happening after the session. It's the circling, it's the community, it's the presence, it's the ability to connect the emotional body to the reasoning body. It's where I can make sense of the chaos that's happening in my mind. That's where people share things they have never shared with anyone before in their whole life. That's truly where magic happens. So don't miss out on this integration. So how does the integration work? First ingredient, silence. There is a lot of silence in my sessions after the breath. So there is the breath, the calm down, and then space, silence. And I don't give instruction. I don't bring them back. There is a good 5-10 minutes of nothingness where people are, some of them are waiting. Can I get up? Am I going to do something? And others will just be in bliss of just being with themselves without attached to music, without attachment to the breath. There is nothing anymore. I almost say that the goal of breath work is to prepare you for meditation. It's like it's in space that we create after the breath that most of the magic happens very often. Yeah, so don't miss out on that space. And in doubt, give more space. You cannot make it long enough. Yeah, and don't be scared. A lot of facilitators are scared of silence, and they always want to feel that they have to do something or say something. No. You've talked, you facilitate, you touch, you did all your show. Thank you. Everybody has seen you. Now, You get out of the way as a facilitator and let people be. Yeah, let them be. Number one. Number two, I bring them back, but I always give permission for people to do what they want. Yeah, so I always start by saying, you are perfect exactly as you are. You have nothing you need to do right now. And if you feel like you want to start moving, move. So I first give permission for people to not move. And then I tell other people, if they want to, now we can move on one side, bring them back. And I give them now the invitation to go and either be with themselves in nature, reconnect to the senses. I have animals here, so play with the dogs, with the cats, check out the leaves, go for a walk, some kind of reconnection to the environment. Get a glass of water. Appreciate the taste of a papaya. I know, if you've done, because it's kind of a psychedelic taste, you really get your senses enhanced. So you really get to appreciate coconut like wow, it's the best coconut water in the world and it's the best papaya in the world. And then journaling, integration by yourself, reflection, moment of journaling. And I cannot stress enough the importance of journaling for everyone, a moment of, okay, let's have a conversation. Hello, my love. Again, it's another hello, my love moment. Let's what's going on. No. And then I bring them back into circling. And I have strong guidelines. So I create really safety for the container. I'm really strict on the guidelines. And then after that, from that place of strong safety, I encourage emotional shares. And I tell them how important it is for themselves and how it's part of their process. And how, when they do that, they give permissions to others to share. So it's a responsibility. And we know that, and we see that in the Me Too movement. Once one person starts sharing their abuse story, and all of a sudden it gives permission to everyone else to share. Well, it's true for everything. And in my experience, these days, people are quite comfortable to share about their trauma. But what I'm encouraging also is for people to bring their perpetrators into the space, what you have done rather than what happened to you. And that's very profound. So it's a space where you share what happened, what you've done to others, what you've experienced as a victim. And in my experience, because people have been breathing, they are fully open, they feel safe, they feel connected, it unlocks everyone. So one person brings a topic, and then everybody raise their hand. Again, I'm not saying that to brag, but I've done it with 7,000 people. What I can tell you, which is crazy, but it will sound true to you, I'm sure. We all have experienced a version of the same story. And when one person touched their authentic truth, almost everyone has something to say about that topic. You can talk grief, abuse, parenting, whatever is the topic that people bring, sickness, somehow it touches the ones in everyone. And there is something very, very profound. Probably one of the most profound things people experience is, I'm not alone. I'm not alone in my story. I'm not alone in my pain. I think I'm unique. I think there is something about me that is very different from everyone else. And when I start sharing my story, oh my God, I didn't expect everyone to have something to say on that topic. And I'm talking suicide thoughts, I'm talking addiction, bullying, whether you're being a bully or you've been bullied, bring on the topics, abortion, name it, there is always something there. And that is for me the most important in sessions. And that is something that I feel we do better than other trainings, because I really teach that in depth, how you handle these situations, how you deal with how you listen to what's happening with others, how you pay attention to the group, how you unlock the groups. And really you create, probably the most important thing for what they call healing is circling. In every indigenous cultures, healing and circling is the same thing. There is no such thing as an individual healing with going to a doctor who gives him the recipe. That's completely a modern invention and a Western invention. You go to blue zones, they sit down, and some it's around the beer, some it's around the tea, some it's around the cacao. It doesn't really matter. It's the community that matters. So we are attached to this idea of what we should be eating, what should be drinking. It's completely secondary. It's secondary to community. Community is more important than fitness. It's more important than movement. It's more important than diet. It's that idea that I'm not alone. I can feel the support. I can co-regulate with others. I don't have to be a warrior. I don't have to self-regulate. I can drop my mask. And that's the secret of life. And nothing is very much encouraged in our culture, in our trainings. It's not very much about that. People experience it in these trainings, but they don't know how to bring it on and how to create that in their communities. We stress that very much and we encourage that. And I explain that so that when people leave my training, they are equipped with tools to build communities, to build tribe, to open up, and to help others do the same. That is the definition of healing. Yeah. And often all we need is to be heard, is to be witnessed. There's nothing more than that. So no one's giving advice in my session. No one's talking about. I'm very rude in my trainings. I tell them, your knowledge is not welcome. I don't care about your knowledge. Anything you say, oh, about a reference, a book you've read, an idea. I don't care. It's not welcome, because as soon as you're going to say, oh, I know this, you put yourself above the other person. And the secret is that we are all at the same level and that I don't feel that there is someone that is above me, finally. So it's more about the safety created by the equanimity than about being helped by each other. No one's fixing anyone. We're just listening. We're just being present. We are compassionate witness. That's from Gabor Mate. That's all we are. Yeah. And when we have this kind of energy, magic happens. Yeah. So we don't need to apologize anymore. We can build our confidence again. We can feel safe in our bodies again. We can listen to our bodies again. And that's what makes my sessions transformational. So it's not a breathing technique in itself. It's not a recipe around how to breathe or the music. Those are ingredients, but it's very much about the quality of the container and the level of safety that people feel with each other. It's simple, but it's not easy. And it requires a lot of work on yourself. It requires letting go of outcomes, letting go of control, letting go of the need to, and that's not easy because it's masculine. When we facilitate, very often it's the masculine that is driving. So here is, for me, the secret of my facilitation. I facilitate in the feminine. I have my masculine available. My masculine is here to support. I have knowledge, I have tools, I know about every situation. That's my masculine. But I put that on the side and I just allow and I just respond and I just go with the flow and the energy in the group. So it means I'm not attached to what we're going to be doing. People ask me, what is the plan? I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be breathing. I don't know if we're going to be breathing in an hour or this afternoon. And sometimes it's very confusing for people who are used to structured plans. Okay, I'm coming. You have an introduction, and then we breathe, and then we talk. Goodbye. I don't think it works. I think what works is to go with what is alive. And sometimes someone comes and is very charged, and we go with that, and everybody is so drawn to that, and it unlocks everyone, and we don't even need to breathe. And people call me a magician. And it comes down to that. And I actually call each of my students a magician. We are magicians, and you are a magician. We're all magicians. We have the ability to transform fear into trust. And most people live all their life guided by just fear. We can change shame into pride, and we can let go of guilt and come to self-compassion. And this is truly magic. And it's very much that idea of the world we live in is not supporting us. The way we interact is not supporting our growth. The way we frame the world, we know it's not serving us. So basically, we just come back to our true nature, our simple nature, things that are just common sense, that are intuitive, that are listening without the need to win, to convince, to do anything else. And that's the secret of facilitating breathwork for me, and to create transformation for people. And it's pretty common sense. And nothing I share is like, whoa, cool. Like it doesn't require years of learning. You don't need to do 1 million trainings and study anything. And that's what's fundamental about it. It's like, look at kids. They do it very well. And then they lose it. But it's that's what it comes down to. So yeah, let me pause for do you have questions, guys? All right, you can raise your hand if you have questions. I continue otherwise, but if you have things coming up. So I have a few little things that I can add. It's essential that people trust me. So I spend a lot of time creating an environment where people trust me. And everyone is unique and everyone will trust me with different things, different approach. So I really have an approach where I'm listening and I'm smelling and I'm feeling and I'm trying to inquire so that I can create the environment for people to trust me. If they don't trust me, they're going to be guarded, they're not going to surrender. So I want people to trust me. And I find that it's not rocket science. Most people are in their minds and they're in their heads and they believe in science. And that's where, for me, is the importance of knowledge. So I know a lot. I read a lot. I can talk a lot. Because I find that if I share some really cool information, people feel, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about. I can relate and I can he seems to know, so I can trust. And that's very much based on, unfortunately, the world, the way we are experiencing safety is through, okay, the guy who has the white jacket, who has a nice suit, the lawyer, the doctor, and it's very much, you're doing Ayurveda. It's very much about the attire of the person who is in front of you. It's like it's all these codes that we think, oh, this person has the knowledge, so I can trust. And it's very much about the decoration around and this the certificate on the wall and all these things that make you feel, okay, now I can trust. And that's why we go to the hospital, that's why we go to the lawyer. So it's just the conditioning of humans. So knowing that, it's important to bring some knowledge, but be specific. Huh? Don't be woo-woo in when people ask questions. And I can tell you that I have 3 words that create the most safety when people ask me questions. And there is always one moment where I manage to say those 3 words, and it's I don't know. You have no idea the power that it creates in my trainings and sessions when people ask something and I say, I don't know. It feels, wow, cool. It's not because when I say I don't know, what I'm also saying is when I know, you can trust that I'm going to say what I know. And instead of responding all the time and having something smart to say. And I'm a good AI. And when people ask me something I don't know, I register it. I go to ChatGPT, and the next time I will know. Yeah. But it's also okay to not know. It actually creates a lot of safety for people. It's basically when I express my boundaries, it creates safety. The same way a child will feel safe with a parent that says no, and then you have a friend, and if your friend says no, you mean you can trust their yes. It's exactly the same with a facilitator. A facilitator says no, or a facilitator says I don't know. It creates a lot of safety. I've said a lot in the first webinar, so I think that's it. And still no question, my friends? Let me see on Facebook if there are questions. Anything's coming up? Yeah, go ahead. Unmute yourself if you have a question.
Hi, Alex. Hello. Good
Hey,
morning.
Maria Katia, who
So,
did the training like a year
Maria
ago, will
Katia.
be assisting me
Yeah,
tomorrow. Good to see you, love.
that was my best decision ever. I actually came back for the training from Italy. I remember that.
Yeah. Come
And
again. We have the next training, 30th of March. Anyone who wants to learn to be a facilitator, 30 March, you are very welcome. We are on. What is your question, Maya Katya?
that's amazing. So, what are the giveaway signs that you look for when you make an assessment, when people come into your space and you said before you kind of understand? Obviously, it's down to experience a lot, I believe. But also, is there any things that say common ground that you look for?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Great question. Your breath is your autobiography, and it's it's incredible how many people store unexpressed emotions in their breath. You know, when you experience something traumatic, is interruption of the breath, and oh, what happened? Oh, this even took my breath away. You know, so we have all these expressions around the breath. So very much the breath is where I'm going immediately. So I'm basically observing, and Ayurveda they do the same. Is where is the energy flowing, where it's not flowing. You know, where it's. I mean, what I'm saying is the same principles in Chinese medicine. It's the same principles in Ayurveda. It's not like I come up, the chakra system. It's basically saying all the same thing with different words. But it's the idea that as a child you have the energy is flowing. The child is receiving an information. He's having an emotion. He's crying. Next second he's laughing. We have the ability to navigate emotions like boom, 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 and we get stuck and we lose that. So it's really be able to observe how is the breath, what is moving, what is not moving. Is the upper very much is the upper chest moving or not moving? Is the belly moving or not moving? Is the inhale the belly is coming out or is belly coming in? Is it paradoxal breathing or is it a natural breathing? Is there relaxation in the body? Do I sense tension in the body? Is the person tense? Do I feel that in their muscles? And then I will look at their physiology. Someone wearing glasses? In what is their body language? What are they expressing? Do they wear tattoos? What is tattoo? Do they have a lot of muscles? What's happening with what am I getting? Because my belief is that the personality is an adaptation to the environment. So the way you are is a response to what happened to you. So the more I'm going to be able to observe, maybe the person will be talking a lot and taking a lot of space. That's a symptom. Or the person will not take a lot of space at all and will be hiding, and that's also a symptom. So I'm the level of presence, the level of, and then we look at the shape of the face. Is there tension in the jaw? Did they express themselves, or they have been suppressing their voice? Maybe when they speak, I cannot understand them, and I have to ask them to speak louder all the time. And I'm going to ask them to, okay, maybe someone is coughing. Maybe I can feel someone needs to burp. There's something that hasn't been expressed. So for me, everything is a symptom. From the anatomy to the physiology to the behavior. I'm not having, like sometimes people will be judging. No, drop the judgment and just be compassionate. This girl has a breast implant for a reason. This guy has these muscles for a reason. And it's very easy and tempting to have an opinion. Oh, people who have a breast implant, this is my opinion about them. And people who are big muscles and show off or have luxury clothes, that's my opinion about them. My invitation, drop your judgment. Drop your judgment and welcome this human who is trying his very best with what he has. He wants to be seen, he wants to be validated, he wants to be heard, he doesn't want to be alone, and he is trying to figure it out. And you know what? Sometimes he kills people. Sometimes she rapes people. I'm usually changing the gender because it's both. And I've been going to prison and experience that. There is no such thing as a bad person. And I'm exhausted of the collective bullshit. Watch Netflix documentaries and see how short minded the shows are. I just watched um, apple cider vinegar. Watch this documentary. It's basically about a girl who faked to have cancer and built an empire in Australia, a wellness empire. And the documentary is how she's a bad person for lying and manipulating. And that's the end of the story. Man, if we have this kind of narratives, we just keep labeling people as good or bad, and we're going to do this with absolutely everybody in our life. And that's the fundamentally what's wrong in our culture. Because when you say this person is good and this person is bad, I promise you, you do the same with your parts inside of you the same way. And you label parts of you as good and you label parts of you as bad. And this is why people are not happy. This is why people are sick. They are sick, they are unhappy because there are parts of them that they welcome and parts of them that they suppress. The darkness, the desires, the thing that they feel, oh my God, if people knew what was really going on for me, I could never stay in this relationship. I could never experience that. And that's the mistake. And that's the lie. The more you're going to express yourself authentically, bringing to the surface the darkest part of you, the more it creates connection in your life. And you have no idea how transformational it is. This is how we get free, my friends. We get free from our shadows. We get free from the impact that people think have on our life. And it's just the collective bullshit that is controlling our lives. Yeah, I mean, I could go on forever, but it's basically, Maria Katia, 50% I'm connecting to myself. So I do my meditation, I do my ice baths, I sit in front of the altar, I welcome the gods in the space, I thank Bali for, so I'm very much connected to the ground, I'm cuddled with my animals, I have a moment, I almost take 2 hours before a session just for myself. Yeah. And the parallel is an athlete before a competition. You don't expect someone who's running the 100 meter to just arrive 5 minutes before putting his Big Mac and then running. No, he's preparing a lot. Well, facilitation is the same. I'm a world champion. This is the final of the 100 meter, and now I'm entering. I'm ready. Bring it on. And that's 50% of the job. If I'm in that space and I arrive and I've done all that, then I can welcome it all. But watch the part one because there is a lot that I haven't touched that I touched in the part one around being vulnerable and authentic and generous and the self-practice, all these things that are equally important that I touched in the part one of the webinar. So watch that. Andrea, you have a question. Unmute yourself. And Appa, please send me an email. I put my email to you or my WhatsApp. Connect with me.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So thank you so much for that beautiful share, for all of this. You're clearly a beautiful soul. I just want to let you know I see that. So thank you. Thank you for your work. I'm a former journalist, and I think maybe there are others who would be curious, Alexander, to learn how you came to breathwork. I love to know what somebody studied in university and how your path, how listening to your intuition, to your inner knowing, led you to this incredibly important work.
Thank you. Well, I'm the one who needs it the most. So that's the short answer. I come and I facilitate not from a place of mastery, but from a place of being a student who's struggling and who's needed to be improving in every aspect of his life. I have a lot of conditioning and traumas and things that happened to me in my past that got me to live a life where I was not in integrity, lying, manipulating, not listening to myself. So about 12 years ago, the mother of my kids wanted to separate, and I didn't want to. I have two very small kids, 0 and 2, 2.5, and I didn't want to separate. So she said, "Okay, then you need to see a therapist." And for me, therapists were for crazy people. So I refused, and then eventually she forced me because I didn't want to lose her and the kids. So I went to see a therapist, And after 3 sessions, she was ready to give up because I had not expressed any emotion. I didn't even know what that meant. I had never cried in my life. I was just working my ass and trying to sustain for a family and just being sick and disconnected, pain everywhere in my body. Was running a business that was failing, of course.
Mm.
And she told me, "Hey, I'm going to go to Breathwork. You need to come with me." So I went to a breathwork session, and at the time I hated to removing my shoes. This idea of removing shoes is something that was really hard for me. I didn't like to remove my shoes, to give you how far I was. And I was wearing a jacket and pants, and I didn't like to remove my jacket because that's how I was raised. And everyone was barefoot and they were grounding in the earth, and I didn't join them. I was just sitting, waiting, and eventually we got to lay down, which I found ridiculous on some mattresses. And my therapist was there, so I didn't have a choice. And within minutes, the girl next to me started moaning, so sexual sounds. And I sat on my forearms like that, and I looked at her, and there were like 40 people in the room, and a lot of, the facilitator was from Guatemala, and there was fucking feathers everywhere and crystals, and I was not in my world. And I did not understand why no one was triggered by this girl who was giving herself permission to feel sexual energy in public. My mind could not comprehend it. This is not okay. You don't do this. Okay? Maybe in porn movies, but it's not in public. You don't do that. So I froze. And after 10 minutes of being there, like, come on, guys, like, somebody, please agree with me that this is nuts. I eventually went back, and it took me one breath. And that's all it took. It took one breath, and in one breath, I had some kind of a download. And it's a word that I would have laughed at you if you had said that word 10 years ago. And I saw everything. I cried for an hour and a half. I knew what was wrong in my relationship with my kids already, with my parents, why I was sick, why my business was failing. I eventually sat in the circle, and there was, of course, what at the time I found a very ridiculous heart-shaped pink crystal in the middle, the talking stick. And we were invited to grab it and share. And I would never do this ever. And I couldn't help it. I was the first. I got up, I grabbed it, I sat down. There was snot all over my face. And I said, well, I'm changing everything. I put it back, and I didn't sleep or eat for 3 days. I couldn't understand. My whole world was shaken. Everything I believed for 40 years was thrown by the window. And very much I thought, you know what? If someone like me can have an experience like that, really it is for everyone. Because I'm the least spiritual person you could find in Ubud. Yeah. And I went to India for 6 years. I was getting drunk in the Ganga River, and I was laughing at the yogis. Yeah, I'm that guy who had zero connection to himself, zero connection to the spirit, any connection to absolutely anything. And it took me one breath, not even an hour and a half of breath work, one breath. So that's it for me. I got, they say if you feel it, you believe it, and that's it. That was for me. It's like I experienced it, and there was no way back. Once you know, you know. And after that, because of the way I was brought up, I still had a very rational approach to it. I studied everything for 10 years. I have all the books. I have done all the trainings after that. I wanted to really understand the science of transformation. And now I can make the bridge because I have a very grounded approach to it and a very simple. I break it down in a very simple words. I'm not dressed specifically. I don't talk in a specific way. There is nothing special in my place. There is a beautiful altar, but it's a simple altar with my kids' toys, my toys, and things like that. It's very simple. So yeah, that's my story.
That's an incredible story. You didn't answer one of my questions, though. What did you study in university? What were you doing before? You said you had a business that was failing.
Oh, I did everything. I was collecting antiques. I was reproducing antiques for 6 years. I was managing hotels and restaurants. I was a cook at one point, and I did a business school. So I did the business school because I was told to do the business school. I didn't have much of an option. I was doing what I was told. And then I said, okay, I'm going to do the opposite. So now I have a business degree. I'm going to be a cook. And just as that was my rebellion. And I'm still a cook, you know. I'm still a cook. Now I'm cooking and finding the breathe Indians to create transformation.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You're
Thank
very
you so
welcome, guys.
much.
So we're coming to the end of this webinar. So thank you all for watching and joining. If you're interested, if you're in Bali tomorrow, I have some space. Maria Katia is assisting me. We have a workshop for 2 days, and then for those who wish to join me, I have a 3 weeks transformation that I do every 3 months. The next one is on 30th of March. And this one will be special because it will be a Netflix edition. We have some cameras in the space and we will film transformation. We will film what is happening actually for people when they transform from the day of arrival in the space and 3 weeks later physically. So hopefully we'll have a better documentary to offer to Netflix than what's out there in my views anyway. Otherwise, I have online courses on breathwork, 11 weeks online course. I've took me 4 years to do it, and I have a book coming up soon. So a lot of things happening. So, and lastly, yesterday I got banned from Instagram. So don't look for me on Instagram because I've been removed from Instagram because I posted something about this kind of things, and somehow it triggered the robots. So I'm no longer on Instagram. So I will rely on your support and words to share the recording of this webinar and help me spread the word in a non-social media way, or at least none from my channel. That's it. Thank you, everyone.